school, their fancy uniforms. And remember what got you. Focus on the fundamentals. We've gone over time and time again. And most important, don't get caught up thinking about winning or losing this game. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
This is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show.
This is a second coming. This is a call to arms. Your finest hour won't be wasted.
The New Hampshire High School Hoop Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
Right now, it's not about talent. It's about heart. It's about who can go out there and play the hardest, who can go out there and play the smartest. Now, they've been here before, so they're not going to give it to us. We got to go out there and we got to take it.
And now, here are your hosts, Pete Terrier.
But I have a question, though. Those two foul shots at the end of the game, did you miss them? Or did you miss them?
Not exactly a soup question, is it?
And Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
All season long, we played our game. Right now, you're playing theirs. When we step on the floor, every second that clock is ticking, we are pedal to the metal. We run the ball. We pressure the ball. And most importantly, we control the tempo of the game.
Well, good morning, and welcome to our championship weekend edition of the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. You guys probably saying, what the heck is this guy talking about? It's not March. It's not March 16th, UNH, Lundholm Gym, D1, D2 championship games. No! AFC championship game. Of course, NFC championship game, but we care, Dave Haley, about the Patriots in that game against the Raisins. The Raisins. It's going to be one of those mornings, isn't it, Dave?
I hate raisins. I'm just not a big fan of raisins. I'm more of a banana guy.
But are you fired up like I am about football this weekend?
Yeah, of course I am. Yeah, it's tomorrow, though. I'm more fired up about high school basketball right now.
All right, I'm very fired up about high school basketball.
You're fired up
as well.
about your strudel, too. Go
I'm
ahead.
fired up, all right. I was very excited this morning. My wife got up early. She prepared me this Go Patriots toaster strudel. You know, when you were a kid and your mom or dad made a lunch and they put a little note in there or whatever, maybe a little smiley face, she put Go Pats on my toaster strudel. And, of course, as I'm walking into the radio station this morning, those of you who watched the video of the first couple seconds of the show said, geez, what the hell's Pete Terrier doing here? I drop my toaster strudel and it goes face down on the steps outside the studio, and I was like, uh-oh, bad sign for the Pats.
Are you going to eat that thing?
I will eat that thing.
Oh, good grief.
I figure I have to eat the thing now.
Sure, 5-second rule, especially when it's out in the middle of in the sand and the dirt in Manchester.
You know what?
It's the cleanest city in America.
It's about football, and football players are tough.
Sure.
And I can't wait till that game tomorrow night. But let's get into the show. New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. You were at a tremendous game last night. I was at a good game last night as well.
Yeah.
I saw you on the video highlights of that Portsmouth-Hollis Brookline game with some dude in a tight blue bodysuit.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, he looked like a guy who's going to fight Spider-Man on the side of a building or something. But we pulled him in there, and it's one of those things that you do, and you're laughing about it. And
I thought it was good.
And then I watched it with John just now, and I said, oh, God, this could be a career ender right here. But he looks pretty good. He and I may do a talk show together, something like that, like a Regis Kelly kind of thing.
And I think the new camera is slimming that John has, so we appreciate
Let's
it.
hope so.
And check out that video. We'll get you the scores from around the state of New Hampshire last night. Our Friday night scoreboard brought to you by the New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement and the Buyers Beware program, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors, even if you drop your toaster strudel face down. It says Go Patriots. You're worried about it messing everything up. Don't go to the bottle for a little solace, all right? Just don't do it. Here's the scoreboard with Dave Haley.
Starting in Division I last night, which I thought was maybe one of the most interesting scores. Trinity 92, Manchester West 42.
Why so? Because it's a 51-point win.
50-point win. Carmen G. and Petruzzi with 24 points. NHIAA hasn't updated this yet, but I have memorized this because I was up at 5 a.m. adding scores. Jeff Lund with 24 points says BG beats Timberlane 73-56. Do I think BG's good? Yes. Have they really played anybody besides Memorial? Maybe not. But we'll see soon. Pinkerton breaks a losing streak, and they beat Concord 75-51. Dover 63, Salem 53. Salem's struggling. I'm a little surprised by that. Bounce around a little bit. Is 2 games in a row a winning streak, Pete?
Yes. It's a 2-game
Keene's
winning
on a
streak.
winning streak. They are on a winning streak. Keene has won 2 games in a row. Keene defeated Londonderry last night, 64-61. Alvern with a 59-56 win over Exeter. Tyler Livingston with 17 points. Alvern needed that.
Yeah, they did.
In a big way.
And I'm surprised about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Exeter's been playing well. Game that Pete Terry was at, and we're going to obviously talk about. We're going to have Jack Quirk on later. But Manchester Memorial with a very nice 67-55 win over a Bedford team that is playing pretty well. Moving around to Division I, Central remains undefeated, 52-47 over Merrimack. 14 points for Troy Pelletier in that one.
How did my boy Brett Hansen play in that game?
10
Because he got
points.
sucker punched the other night.
10 points.
And that shows how tough this kid is to come back from that and put up double-digit points in the next game.
He's absolutely tough. You got to be at that size. We're going to talk about that, too. I have a weird feeling. So now bouncing around, game of the night. Some would call it game of the year. I'm not ready to call it game of the decade, but Guilford 62, Belmont 51.
I'm like, well, we had 2 pretty good games covered. I'm like, what else could have been? What did we miss?
And the Golden Eagle train rolls along. Prospect Mountain with a nice win over Campbell, 62-57. Newport remained undefeated as well, 68-54 over Messina. 30 points for Scott Hood in that game. Andrew Hood in that game. I'm talking his dad, Scott Hood. His dad did not play in that game.
No.
He would not be eligible. 30 points for Andrew Hood in that game, including 6 3-pointers. Dairyfield, nice win, 52-46 over Epping. Colebrook with a 75-52 win over Mark Collins and Groveton. Game I was at last night, Portsmouth 58, Hollis Brookline 47. Definitely going to talk about that. Hopkinton bounces back. Nice win over Mascoma, 44-34. Moving around. Berlin 70-57 over Somersworth. Krejci and Justin McIsaac both complained about the officials over Twitter last night.
87 free throws in the game?
I don't
or
know.
87 fouls? That can't be true.
I don't know.
That cannot. I saw a tweet from Greg Kretschmar.
He wasn't happy.
Whose son Tyler plays for the team. His nephew plays for the team. And his tweet said 87 fouls whistled in a 32-minute high school game. That cannot be true. Because everybody would have fouled out.
Yeah, it can't be true.
That's an exaggeration.
It's a big exaggeration, but I want to hear what the story was. So last couple scores, Lebanon 50-41 over Milford. Sunapee got a nice win over Pittsfield, 74-64. James Fitzgerald with 24 points for Sunapee. Pelham in a game 42-38 that Matt Regan, their coach, emailed me and said, ew, was the way he described that one.
But they won?
They beat Oyster River 42-38. And last score of the night, Newmarket with a 75-28 win over Portsmouth Christian. And I mentioned that game because Christian Hawkins, who scored 38 points the other night, had 31 points last night. He now has 69 points in the last 2 games.
And he's draining threes left and right. I got to credit Ryan O'Leary from Seacoast Online. We've had him on the program before. He said that he's been lighting up the threes.
Elliot Bless is saying, and getting texting, 87 free throws.
87 free throws, okay.
So how long did that game take?
Well, gee.
Is it over?
I mean, it's probably not.
Poor McIsaac.
So they had to drive 3 hours. I don't know how long it takes to get from Somersworth to Berlin. But I'm sure it's a lengthy trip.
McIsaac was half awake, mumbling about his old wrestling stories. I can only imagine what was going on up there.
And
two veteran newsmen up there in Berlin.
I'm complaining about how the Bedford Memorial game the JV game went to overtime. So a 6:30 tip time ends up being closer to 7 o'clock.
Bedford Winnicott I went to last Friday was double overtime. That JV game.
And I'm like, can't these games? And I know the parents are there watching their kids play JV. The kids that are playing are actually wanting to win a game. The coaches and all that. And I'm sitting there going, can't these JV games just end in a tie?
There should be ties. There should be ties. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
All right, so hey, and the Newmarket thing, I wanted to mention that with Christian Hawkins, so I'm glad we got that out of the way. I got to go see those guys play.
Yeah, I saw them against Dairyfield a few weeks ago.
Dairyfield beating Epping was a little bit of a surprise to me.
They beat them twice, and I'm so proud of you that we're talking about Division IV basketball right now.
We lead.
I'm glowing right now. That's a nice win for Dairyfield. I think it is. Jamie Hayes is a good friend of mine, so I hate putting this out there, but it is Newmarket's to win.
Yeah.
And I am actually February 2nd. Going to go up to Lisbon. my long-delayed trip to Lisbon, I'm going to see Littleton is playing at Lisbon. Two of my favorite players, Chad Knighton from Lisbon and Nick Whipple from Littleton. And so I'm interested to see that. But it's even Trevor Howard, the coach of Littleton's like, it's Newmarket. And,
Yeah.
But, funny things happen. But it's their year. They've been in the Final Four 5 years in a row.
They could be. Are they the only unbeaten team in D4 right now?
No, Littleton's undefeated.
Okay. Are you bringing the NHSportsPage.com camera up there? Is John Casty, he's looking over there. Very interesting. Do I have to go
John, you
North
should look
Country?
at me saying, what should I do, Dave, instead of looking at me like, you've got to be kidding me, Dave.
I drove to Portsmouth last night.
He did. We had a good time in Portsmouth last night. No play-by-play, but we got a guy in a green suit, and was it green or a
I think
blue
it was
suit?
blue, Dave.
Yeah, I think it was
blue. We got a tremendous show lined up. We're going to have Jack Quirk on from Manchester Memorial. His team victorious last night, 67-55 against Bedford. I was at that game. Very entertaining game.
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
Bedford is a good team. They're not elite. I wrote this in the story that I posted on nhsportspage.com last night. I think they're good, but I don't think they're at that level of the Trinities. And even though they played Trinity real close the other day on Tuesday, Meservy had 4 threes, all of them in the third quarter, and like 3 of them bunched up and then one towards the end of the quarter. But they couldn't get over the hump against Memorial last night. We'll talk with Coach Quirk a lot about it. And we had this conversation about them being very athletic. And that's all I can think of when I see that team play because, man, they just get out and run.
Why is that a bad
thing? And they jump. It's not a bad thing.
They're athletic. I said they alley-oop. They're dunking all. There aren't a lot of teams that are dunking all the time in games. And didn't Iracunda have a
Zubel had a dunk. He had another one that was like almost a dunk. Patrick Welch had one of those a couple weeks ago against Goffstown, and I was like, Alosa had said after the game, "Yeah, Pat had a dunk." I was like, "Was that really a dunk?" I mean, one of those. I had one of those back in the day when I was playing. You kind of throw it down and then you grab the rim with your fingers, and it makes it look like you just dunked.
I don't believe for one moment you had one of those back in the day. By the way,
I was a lot skinnier back in the day, Dave.
It's tough to get up there. By the way, yeah, and Pembroke won big last night. We should mention Patrick Welch did not play in that game. You said he's got a kind of a cranky back, but he didn't play.
I saw the game on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday or was it last Friday? I can't remember.
Tuesday.
It all kind of blends in for me.
Yeah.
The Stowhegan game, and Pembroke gutted their way to a 44-40 win. Patrick Welch was not himself. He had 4 points in the game, and he wasn't shooting well. He really wasn't shooting as often as he usually does. And immediately after the game, Pat Welch's father came up to me and said, "Hey, just said hi." And told me, he's like, yeah, he's got a real bad back. He woke up, a few days ago. I don't know if he heard it in a game or something, but he couldn't move all weekend long. They went to the chiropractor on Tuesday to get it checked out, and he actually played the game and played most of the game, but he was a non-factor. And then he said, yeah, we got Kingswood coming up on Friday. Chances are we're going to not play him in that game. And I think they got Hanover next week on Tuesday, I believe. So who knows if Welch will play that game.
You should wait until he's back, yeah, because they can win without him.
And they did last night against Kingswood.
Kingswood,
so
listen.
That's like a scrimmage game.
Kingswood's not good.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We come back. We'll go around the league a little bit. We will have Jack Quirk hopefully coming up from Manchester Memorial. Talked to him last night after the game. Interesting scenario, a question that I asked Mike Fitzpatrick, who was coaching against his former team. Before we break, let's talk about that for a second.
All right, I want to hear about this.
So I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking, man, does Fitzpatrick ever sit back and say, did I really make the right decision by leaving these guys? Because this is a real good team with a legitimate chance at winning the championship this year. And I asked him that after the game, and Fitzy.
Yes.
I mean, and I said, I know how you're going to answer this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. And I said, do you ever wonder, man, would it be fun coaching these guys? And he's like, look, no, I love these guys. Those guys are great kids. They're great players. I wish them the best of luck. I'm happy with the success that they're having, but the decision that was made was a move that, both parties wanted. And to me, it was kind of like Francona leaving the Red Sox. He had been there long enough. He had pretty much done all he could with that program, that organization. I'm talking about Francona with the Red Sox. And I think it was a mutual departure with both Francona and management. And I think a similar situation with Mike Fitzpatrick and Memorial. He was ready to move on from those guys in that school. and they were probably ready to have him move on.
Well, I think there was a lot of they are very heavily influenced by Sudi Lett, their AAU coach. I'm going to ask Jack Quirk about this. And those kids were not showing up to BST Summer League games that Memorial had paid money to be in. And I cover that. I partnered with Brett Sellingham for a long time with that. They weren't showing up to games; they were forfeiting. And Sudi kind of had them doing, nothing against whatever, but they weren't under Mike's control. And I think he said, forget this. I'm going someplace where I'm running the program, and I don't have to reteach things in the preseason, because they were doing other things during the summer.
All right. Well, that's a good take right there. I agree with that 100%. And it'll be interesting to talk to Coach Quirk afterwards. I mean, he's got a good team. They got a legitimate chance at winning it.
Of course they do.
Zubel Iridakunda is a tremendous player. My boy, Tong Akot, huge game last night. 29 points, 11 rebounds. He was a man amongst boys. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back, go around the league a little bit. We got Jack Quirk from Memorial coming up. Talked about his team. They're now 6-1 in Division I and a true championship contender. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. Jim Mulvey from Portsmouth coming up in the next hour. I love the video highlights on the site. It was fun.
I haven't
seen it was good. You did a good job, Dave. And I haven't seen Portsmouth yet, and they've got some players. And weren't those Hollis guards, aren't those two guards, Connor Walsh and PJ Flom, jacked? I mean, when you saw
PJ
especially Flom, this kid is Popeye.
He looks like a
out there.
linebacker.
Yeah. He is jacked, and he could shoot. Man, when you see the highlights, you go and watch the highlights, downtown, he was draining some deep threes in that game.
He hit a deep three. He hit a deep. We had Hollis Brookline students in front of us. They were really nice kids. They knew who we were, the site and all that stuff too, and they were talking. They were excited about it. But I didn't. We'll talk. We'll get into it more after the break. I want to talk about this game a lot though, because Portsmouth's on the move.
It is the championship weekend edition of the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, AFC and NFC Championship. Go Patriots! It's on WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. Back here on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. We do it each and every Saturday morning between 7 and 9 a.m. on two fine stations in the Granite State. WGIR AM 610 Manchester. Also Seacoast Signal for you. 96.7 The Wave, Pete Terrier. Along with Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. Our next guest on the program, or our first guest on this program, is the head coach of the Memorial Crusaders, Jack Quirk. His team improving to 6-1 in Division I last night with an impressive 67-55 victory on the road at Bedford. Coach Quirk, thanks for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
So the story of last night, in my eyes, Tong Akot, a monster game for you guys. 29 points. I had him for 11 rebounds. He was dominating inside. Even stepped out in the fourth quarter and drained a couple of fourth quarter three-pointers. This kid, to me, the body style that he has, he's 6'4", reminds me a little bit about Oliver Miller, who had kind of that outside game, but was also very, very deft with the basketball. Do you like that comparison when I talk about him? I'm not talking talent for talent, but there's just a style of play and the body style.
Oh, yeah, and I remember that player, too.
So when you got a player like that, who obviously is a mismatch, and he's going against a 6'8" kid in Sam Thomas for Bedford, but you know that he can score in a variety of different ways and get to the free throw line, do you try and go after that type of matchup?
Well, our plan really was to attack the basket, and we knew that if we did that, we'd get a lot of dishes to Tong. He's done that pretty much every game for us all season. He's probably close to 20 points a game, if not more. He's just has nice soft hands, catches the ball, goes up quick with it, has nice moves around the basket. And as you said, he's a tough matchup because he can shoot the three, and he's usually covered by a bigger person. And not to say that Tong is a greyhound, but he has that one-step quickness where he can beat bigger people to the basket when he's away. And if they don't come out and play him, he has the has the ability to knock down the three.
Coach, when Mike Fitzpatrick left the program over the summer, Sudi Led, of course, coaches a lot of these kids in Bishop Elite AAU program, and he's the JV coach. A lot of people thought he might be the next guy to be the head coach at Memorial. You certainly were qualified, but what made you decide to kind of throw your hat in the ring, apply for the job, and what made you feel like you were the best person for that job?
Well, really just something different. Like a challenge. It had been a while since I coached the boys. And, you know, I knew that if I was going to do it, given my age, that I would have to take the chance then, because you never know when that position would open up again. I had already decided that I was not going to coach anywhere else but Memorial, so... You know, it was timing, and it was the challenge.
Coach, you mentioned at your age, and I don't know how old you are. Maybe you'll share that information with us. I know that you're old enough to have a son about my age, and I'm 42, so I got to figure you're getting close to potentially retirement. Is it harder now? I mean, when you coached at Hesser College and had tremendous success there, I think you're dealing with probably kind of similar type of kids. Is it harder now, and have you realized that, to kind of communicate with these kids? Because society has changed so much between now and back then when you were at Hesser, and of course, back when you were coaching Memorial back in the day.
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think age is a big factor there with the communication. The kids are similar, but there are some differences too. I mean, most of these kids that I'm dealing with now are, were born in the Sudan. We're born in Africa, and most of the kids that I had at Hesser were, those were African American kids whose family roots had been in Africa had been in America for quite a while. It's different. It's a slightly different type of kid. The culture is a little different.
Coach, I know that there's as far as scouting, there's film that you get of maybe you send somebody out to an opponent you're playing next week and you film the game. Also, I know a lot of coaches have sort of a network where they'll trade. I remember last week hearing a story. Stuart Mitchell was sending tapes to Lebanon, and they were sending tapes back to him. Just trying to help each other out. Now, you being a new coach, and obviously you've been around a while, I'm sure you know a lot of people. But how have you kind of learned the Division I players, having not coached there previously? Last season.
Well, I think that's part of the fun of it. I don't really know the players that well. I don't know the teams that well. Most towns and cities now have the community television, and I was able to get a look at a couple of Bedford games on Bedford Community Television. A lot of those schools, you can access info and video online about them, but it is different. Last year with the girls team, I knew the personnel pretty much inside out. This year it's different, and it's kind of fun in that way.
Coach, you got a Queen City rivalry game, a big one on Tuesday. Just looking at your schedule, you guys taking on Trinity. I think that's where the NHSportsPage.com camera is going to be next Tuesday. So. We'll have the highlights of that game. I want to go back to that holiday tournament game. It wasn't even the championship game. I think it was the second day of the Queen City Invitational Tournament. You guys took on Central. Whale of a ball game. Went to overtime. Zubel Iridakunda had a huge game. I think he probably was named tournament MVP. What do you remember about that game? I mean, it was back and forth, and Pelletier and Brett Hansen going off Dawson Dixon. That is a really good matchup when Queen City teams play in general. But Can you take us back to that game? And was that kind of like the championship game for you, beating Central in the Queen City tournament?
Well, it was and it wasn't. It was a war, that game. It was, back and forth, give and take. It was a real, I thought it was a real heavyweight contest. They were without one of their scorers, Pluntzes, for that game, so their team will be a little different. I just thought that game was a real test for our kids early in the year. Central is one of the barometers, and always has been one of the barometers for excellence in Class L in the last few years. And it was a game that our kids looked forward to and took a lot of pride in competing in that game. And we're very happy in winning it. And you're right, Zubel really stepped up in that game. Actually, two of our better players fouled out in regulation, Tong and Kabongo. Nagalukalande also fouled out in that game. And, it was a real team effort to pull that one out in overtime.
Your mindset as we going forward, and if we can get you to play along here for radio purposes, I know you want to take it one game at a time. That's the way coaches do it. But are you thinking about more than 1 year at Memorial? Because you've got some talented underclassmen. You mentioned Kabongo, Nalakalonde. He's a sophomore. He's got a little brother, Sheaf, I believe is how you say his name.
He is little. Chef. Chef, as I say.
Chef, okay. He's a freshman. Your point guard, Umaru Kante, is a sophomore. I mean, you got some talent coming back. Other guys besides those guys. Are you thinking about this as a one and done situation, or take it year by year?
No, I'm taking it year by year. I looked at it and thought of it as something that would be more than 1 year. I'm still having fun. I really enjoy it. Enjoy the competition. Enjoy all the coaches that I've met so far in Class L. And it's been a kind of a new and I don't want to use the word different in the sense of because I've done it before, but it's been different from what I had done the last 10 years.
I got to ask you this last one, and this one is just a simple opinion question. The story in the Union Leader that came out a couple of weeks ago, written by Jim Fennell, you made some comments that I think were construed as, hey, we're wearing the black hat, a little racial connotation in there. Can you kind of clarify what you really meant there?
Yeah, well, I think that we're a rather unique team. I assume that we're the only team in New Hampshire that starts 5, African American players. And I don't think that's common in the state of New Hampshire. Actually, I don't know if it's ever been done before. I think when we go on the road, in particular, teams kind of mark that game down on their calendar. They know not because of the race situation, but because they know that we're a talented team. It's a team that they would like to beat. I told the kids at the beginning of the year to always expect the best game out of their opponent because of that.
All right, Coach, that's fair enough. I appreciate the time. I really, really do this morning. You got a wonderful team. I can't wait to see that game on Tuesday night. Trinity, that game's at Trinity, so that should be a heck of a game. Is that a 6:30? It's probably a 7 o'clock start. I think they start at Trinity, correct?
I believe it's a 7 night. Again, as you said, I look forward. I'll look up the time of the game probably sometime Monday and let the kids know. but I'm pretty sure it's a 7 o'clock start. But
Pretty big game on Sunday night, football-wise.
yeah.
What do you think? Pat's going to the Super Bowl?
Well, that Ravens team always seems to give them fits. It's I don't know whether it's matchups or I guess the real thing is that the Ravens have one there, and they don't fear coming into Gillette like most opponents do. They aren't in awe of the location. They aren't in awe of the Patriots, and they aren't in awe of Tom Brady.
All right, Coach. Well, do me a favor. Say hi to my buddy and your son, Brian, and tell him I said go Celtics. I know he's a huge Celtics fan. So.
Oh, yes, he is, and I will do that.
All right, Coach. Jack Quirk, congratulations on the win last night at Bedford, and we'll see you down the line.
All right, thank you very much, Pete.
All right, Jack Quirk of Manchester Memorial. That was, I thought, a pleasant conversation. I mean, I enjoyed talking to him, actually, and he had a lot to say, and I'm glad we had him on. We'll take a quick time out, come back, and we'll get back into the program. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. You hear it every Saturday morning, 7 to 9, on the radio, WGIR, AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. 7:43 on your Saturday morning, New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, Pete Terrier, Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. I mentioned earlier, I was wondering about the well-being of my boy, Brett Hansen from Manchester Central. I open up today's edition of the New Hampshire Union Leader. What do I see above the fold in the sports section? A beautiful picture of number 11 in your Central program, Brett Hansen, against Merrimack last night. So it's good to see Hansen back in business and looking no worse for wear after getting sucker punched in that game against Manchester West on Tuesday night. While I was out at a game, at that Sauhegan-Pembroke game, I'm getting text updates. I'm on Twitter and stuff, following what's going on. Although it's a little bit hard to follow Twitter at Sauhegan High School.
I know, it's a dead zone.
No
It's weird.
internet out there. Your phone doesn't work. It's crazy. So I remember texting you my tweets, and you were putting them up on NHSportsPage.com Twitter feed.
Yeah.
I got a text while I was at that game saying that Brett Hansen got sucker punched. Troy Pelletier was doing a breakaway. Someone had a intentional foul on him. Brett Hansen kind of might have went up and said something to the guy who was a little bit aggressive on Pelletier, and then next thing you know, he got sucker punched in the head. And I'm not going to mention names about who threw punches.
It's in the paper.
Yeah, well, let them do that.
He
if
also
they want.
gave the finger to the Central crowd and faked throwing the ball in a Central kid's face.
which is pretty uncool.
Let's lay it all out there if we're going to tell the story.
Pretty uncool.
So
okay?
he had lost control of himself, that kid.
Right, and they probably, when you start flipping the bird to the fans in the stand, this isn't a professional game, this is a high school game, you should probably get sat down by your coach first and foremost, wouldn't you say?
Pretty much for the
So
rest
is that
of the
on
game.
Danny Bryson? Is
Little
that
bit.
on the refs?
A little bit.
I mean, wouldn't you think the refs would give a technical for a player?
They didn't see it. They said they didn't see it. I understand that. And I've played basketball long enough to get to be frustrated by what they don't see. But yeah, I think I think Dan Bryson. If the kid's giving the finger and faking, what happened is the Central crowd was giving it to him because he's a former Central player. I'll tell another story. Last year at Trinity, the Trinity crowd was giving it pretty good to Dawson Dixon. Dawson Dixon didn't punch anybody. Dawson Dixon didn't fake throwing the ball at any Trinity kids, and Dawson Dixon didn't punch anybody.
Well, I have seen Dawson, and I like Dawson a lot.
I like him
Great
too.
kid. I like his dad,
I'm giving
Tom.
him credit.
I've seen him kind of try and incite the crowd a little bit by, maybe motioning towards the crowd, not with the finger.
I think that's fine. This is this is, I know what you're talking about.
He's just engaging in trash talking.
I think Dawson's fine. He's a good kid. And but my point is, if you got a kid who's losing it out there, you got to get him on the bench,
Right.
and you got to almost do the sniff test with the kid, and like he's got a concussion, and see if this kid can go back out there. He's not their leading scorer. He's not their leading rebounder. The kid, he wasn't. He's a starter, but I mean, by no means were you hurting your team that much by not having him out there, especially if he can't control himself. If he takes Pelletier out, first thing you do is rip a kid off your bench and get him in there for him. and somehow it lingered, and then he throws a punch at the back of Brett Hanson's head. It's a bad situation, a very, very bad situation, and people are right when they say it could have been very serious.
You know what? He's probably lucky he didn't do it to Brett Hanson last year when Junior Brown was still on the team, because Junior Brown, as an enforcer, a real, aggressive kid.
I'm sure there are a couple. Those Central kids no one's ever said those kids aren't tough, and I'm sure there were a lot of Central
Dawson
kids.
Dixon, I would think, because he's the little guy.
He'll scrap you.
I could see him really getting up there to the defense of his young, because he kind of takes Brett Hanson under his wing, so to speak.
I credit Doc Wheeler with all this, because he those kids, they know how to handle themselves because of the way that they're coached. And this whole thing's not on Dan Bryson. I'm just saying, you asked the question, I think it's a little on the coach. If this had happened and a Trinity player had hauled off and punched somebody, I would say it's a little on Dave Keefe. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to pick on Dan Bryson, but if your kid is throwing fingers at the crowd and faking, if people don't understand what I'm talking about, the ball went out of bounds by the Central crowd. They were giving it to the kid a little bit, and he took the ball and faked like he was going to throw it in a kid's face, a fan in the face. Time to get this kid out of the game for a long time and maybe the rest of the night and say, you know what, we're playing Merrimack on Friday. Why don't you just sit down and we'll figure this out?
And I guess by rule from the NHIAA, he is ejected from that game, and then he's going to miss the next 2 games. If you're Dan Bryson, do you entertain having him just miss the rest of the season?
I would say 5 games probably, or 6 games.
You make your own self-imposed suspension.
Oh,
and
it
say,
should be more than 2.
I'm being a little bit more harsh.
We talked about this with the technical foul thing with Memorial. We go to a lot of games. We cover a lot of games. I can't remember last time somebody got punched in the back of the head.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. And I mean, this is, again, you and I have been to enough games and done this long enough for people to understand. Like, we know what we're talking about. It's unheard of. It's unheard of somebody cold cock a kid in the face. Or the back of the head. So
I remember being at a Memorial Central football game last year, and it was getting pretty rowdy, and it was at Memorial, and Arthur Adamakis, who I saw at the game at Bedford last night, was there, and he was trying to keep that thing under control, and there was students from Central coming over into the Memorial area and inciting, and on that track, there's a track around the field at Shabbat McDonough Field in Manchester, and it was getting pretty aggressive. There was this one kid that stole the other school's flag and was running it around.
Yeah.
And then this kid, I think he was wearing one of those blue bodysuits. that
not my guy. Not my guy.
Guy.
Oh, thank God.
But he was wearing one of those bodysuits, and I remember this kid running with the flag. All right, and he's got the flag. And I think it was the body kid suit and the flag, and he was running with the opposing school's flag, and somebody came out of nowhere and flat out Ray Lewis type of leveled him.
Yep.
And that was the most aggressive thing. I was like, man, someone's going to get hurt.
And that kid deserved it, I'm going to say. Yeah.
Well, maybe he did, but it was getting a little bit out of control. And I remember Adamakis was kind of like, we got to get this thing under control. And especially with these city rivalries, that type of stuff happens. But
there was
seeing it happen on the court in a game, it's taking a little too far.
Yeah, off the court a couple of years ago, I think there was an incident between BG students and Central students at UNH where a couple of kids got hit. But to close this thing out, it's unheard of. If he gets suspended, let's put it this way: if he gets suspended for the rest of the season, I wouldn't blink. I'd be like, okay. I mean, that's big. Really. I mean, I play men's league, and I've seen that one time in probably 20 years. And this is men's league where you're talking about idiots and this is high school kids. So
beer league. Remember I made the beer league comment a couple of weeks ago, and you were like, "What are you talking about?"
Old Ferry Landing's struggling right now. We lost 2 games in a row in overtime, so I'm a little down right now. My squad, we're not down on my squad, but I'm a little down that we've lost.
Our producer Adam Furious is like, when you start talking about Dave Haley's adult men's league basketball, it's time to take a break.
7 seconds I spent on it. Give me a break.
We'll take a timeout.
We'll come back to that after the break.
It is New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. I want to talk about that Central Merrimack game. A final score of 52-47, a lot closer.
How about Hollis Brookline and
I
Portsmouth?
Expected. We will talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it.
We will talk about it. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. All right, Dave Haley, Notre Dame guy. If you think you're getting through this show without me getting into a little what the hell's going on with this Manti Te'o situation, you got another thing coming. We'll talk about that later. I wasn't going to set you up with that, but
Is he going to do the "You Got Another Thing Coming" Adam every week when we can play that? Is this going to be the new theme? It's going to be like the Buyers Beware program.
Yeah, most likely.
I think
what needs to happen is we have to just create a segment called "You Got Another Thing Coming."
Here's the thing about Pete. I want everyone to know this because he's my buddy, and he just pretty much just jumped me in an alley. He said, "Why don't we talk about the Central Merrimack game?" Then he comes on the air and goes, "Let's talk about Manti Te'o."
well, I didn't
Whoa!
say that. No, I said I said if you think you're getting through this 2-hour show
We'll talk
without
about
us
it
talking about it,
after Money Sense. We'll talk.
you got
about
another
it.
thing coming.
Money, whatever it's called.
And the only reason I said
Sense,
that
good
was
call.
because he played and you got another thing coming out of the break. But what I told you before the break is we're going to talk about Manchester Central and Merrimack,
Yes.
a 52-47 win for the Little Green. So Central remaining undefeated in D1. They're now 8-0. Merrimack came into the game 4-2. I don't think they've played a lot of people, but I'll tell you what, they've played Central twice now. They played them in the holiday tournament, and they lost by 7, and then they played them last night, and they lost by 5. Merrimack is a grind-it-out basketball team, and they make you play ugly. And I wasn't at the game. I don't know if it was ugly, but I look at that score, 52-47, and I said that's exactly what Tim Goodrich wants. And that's how they're going to be able to win basketball games.
Yeah, I don't think Central averages 63 points a game, and they only give up 43 points a game. They give up the least amount of points in the entire division. Trinity's second at 46.9. This is off the top of my head, or possibly I'm reading this off my own website, one of the two. But they grind it out too. Same thing. Let me throw this at you, and we'll talk about this game, but. Now, I think we're kind of to the point. I'm actually going to write, I do a midseason snapshot every year of each division.
I'm familiar with your work.
Oh, thank you. And next week, I'm going to do Division 3 and Division 4. The following week, I'm going to do Division 1, Division 2. And so I think we've gotten through enough of a point in the season where we can kind of look at the standings and kind of assess the whole picture. And you look at the standings here, and right now,
You're talking D1 standings.
Winnacunnet is Division 1. Winnacunnet is 10th. Bedford is 11th. And then I think there's a cliff that you jump off after 11. You got Londonderry, Exeter, Nashua North, Pinkerton's 2-5. Keene is 2-5. Manchester West, who just lost by 50. Salem, Concord, Timberlane. So do you agree? There's a pretty big jump from Bedford to Londonderry. Londonderry, who just lost last night to Keene. Would you?
I agree. Dover would be above the Mendoza line, so to speak.
And here's why I say this. Here's what brought this to my attention. Seth Guerin from Alvern, who we definitely have to have on the show, but he sends me the stats, the Alvern stats, and I said they won over Exeter, and I said, boy, they needed that. And then I entered their stuff, and I said they're 4-3. Right there, they're fine. They don't feel like they're 4-3. They feel like they're but I think that's what it is. There are a lot of teams that aren't capable of beating. I mean, Central 8-0. I mean, they're the best team in the division, but Doc's teams always slip up a little early, and they're always playing great in March. I mean, that's what he does. But there's a big drop. I mean, Londonderry, and I'm not saying these are terrible teams that can't beat anybody, but Londonderry, Exeter, and Exeter's playing better, but North, who lost to Campbell in a Christmas tournament, Pinkerton just lost to Keene, West lost by 50, Salem's 1-6, Concord's 1-7. They almost lost to Hopkinton, and Timberlane's 0-8.
Timberlane hasn't. I was sitting with Chris Schuker, who I used to do a radio show with, Timberlane grad. He was at the game the other night when they lost in overtime to North, and they haven't won in the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And this season, too. So the losing streak at Timberlane is incredible.
Wrestling.
All right, we're running out of time.
Big wrestling school.
You lucked out on the Manti Te'o for this hour
darn
anyways.
It. Yeah.
But I don't feel so bad about not knowing who the hell he was earlier this year, maybe because he never really existed.
And most important, don't get caught up thinking about winning or losing this game. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
This is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show.
This is a second coming. This is a call to arms. Your finest hour won't be wasted.
The New Hampshire High School Hoop Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
Right now, it's not about talent, it's about heart. It's about who can go out there and play the hardest, who can go out there and play the smartest. Now, they've been here before, so they're not going to give it to us. We got to go out there and we got to take it.
And now, here are your hosts, Pete Terrier.
But I have a question, though. Those 2 foul shots at the end of the game, did you miss them? Or did you miss them?
Not exactly a soup question, is it?
And Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
All season long, we played our game. Right now, you're playing theirs. When we step on the floor, every second that clock is ticking, we are pedal to the metal. We run the ball. We pressure the ball. And most importantly, we control the tempo of the game.
Hour number 2 of the program, the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. We do it Saturday mornings, 7 to 9 a.m., live on the radio, 2 fine stations. WGIR AM 610 in and around Manchester, Nashua, Concord. Seacoast signal for you, too. A crystal clear FM station, 96.7 The Wave. Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com, your host for the program. We also do something pretty cool that I like to watch, usually when I'm doing laundry on a Sunday morning. We post the video cast of the show right up on NHSportsPage.com so I can come in, do the show, take a shower, make sure I'm looking good, pretty for the camera, and then we can watch and relive the magic that happened
really.
About 24 hours ago on the program. And a lot of people watch that video. I mean, I get people coming up to me all the time saying, yeah, I watched the show on NHSportsPage.com, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're much better on camera than I am, man. You're the camera guy. I did last night with John. But,
I thought you did a tremendous job, especially when you brought the blue guy in. You got to check out the video highlights from Portsmouth and Hollis Brookline. Get a look at number 55 in Hollis Brookline, PJ Flom. He is a short, stout guard.
He dove over the scores table last night. He almost killed
slow
3
down,
people.
slow motion video
Did you
action.
Get that?
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Oh, he looked like he was going to kill somebody.
In slow motion, he goes over the scores table, and John Kesty, who does the fine work with the filming,
the great John Kesty,
and the editing, and you got PJ Flom calling out slow motion going over the scores table. It's pretty cool
Look
stuff.
at John showing off.
Why don't we get to the scoreboard? A lot of games last night around the state of New Hampshire. We're not going to read off each and every single score, but Dave Haley does a great job kind of cherry-picking the scores that you really want to know. And you know what? If you don't hear your school's team name, send him an email. What's your email address?
Pete Terrier at New Hampshire, NHSportsPage.com.
Yeah, it's actually Dave Haley at NHSportsPage.com. And say, you know what? Start reading our scores in that scoreboard.
Bless at NHSportsPage.com.
And the scoreboard brought to you by the New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement and the Buyers Beware program, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors, even if your team wins the AFC Championship game tomorrow night and you're headed back to the Bayou for a Super Bowl appearance, even if it's the 7th time in 12 years. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
It would be the 6th Super Bowl appearance, actually.
6 for Brady.
Even if it's the 6th Super Bowl appearance in 12 years, don't pop the champagne tomorrow night after the Patriots win. Knocking on wood. Hopefully it happens. Don't do it. It's against the law. Can I find any other crazy and unique ways to say that?
No, I think that was pretty good. Thank you for not bringing up Manti Te'o's invisible girlfriend either. We go to the scoreboard. Trinity with a 92-42 win over Manchester West. 24 points from Carm Gianpetruzzi. BG, 73-56. We were talking about in the break. C.J. Boynton still out with a shoulder injury, but BG rolls on. Jeff Lund with 24 points, and I would say he and Jack Preston unequivocally are the best 2 big men.
What about
in Division I?
Mabor Gabriel.
I'm going to put those 2 over Mabor.
Tong Acott.
Prove me wrong. Tong Acott, yeah, you're right. He's got to be in that conversation, too. Pinkerton, 75-51 over Concord, breaks a losing streak for Pinkerton. Dover, 63-53. Billy Carroll with a big game for Dover. Dover beats Salem in that game. Game I was at last night, Portsmouth with a 58-47 win over Hollis Brookline. We're going to talk about that one coming off break. We're going to have Jim Mulvey in the second hour. Keene with a bona fide winning streak. They beat Londonderry 64-61. Dave Sontag doing a nice job his first season over there. Game that Pete Terrier was at last night, Manchester Memorial, 67-55 over Bedford. As we said, big game for Tong Acott in that one. Alvern got a much-needed win, 59-56 over an Exeter team that's playing better lately. Tyler Livingston with 17 points in that game. Manchester Central remains undefeated, 52-47 over Merrimack, 14 from Troy Pelletier. And moving around now, bouncing around a little bit. Pelham with a 42-38 win over Oyster River. Big game for Keith Brown in that one. Newport 68, Messinic 54, 30 points for Andrew Hood in that one, including 6 3-pointers. My man's playing really well up there. Prospect Mountain 62, 57 over Campbell. Campbell would beat Conant on Monday, but Prospect Mountain's playing very well right now. Colebrook with a 75-52 win over Groveton. Dylan Leach with a big game for the Mohawks, and yes, they are the Mohawks, by the way. Derryfield 52-46 over Epping. Big game for Roger Larrabee. He had 19 points in that game. Game of the year. We argued during the break, and it got a little physical almost here in the studio. Game of the decade or game of the century? Let's just go right now. Game of the year: Guilford 62, Belmont 51. The Eagles are undefeated, and nobody wants any part of the Golden Eagles right now.
Have you been to a Guilford game this year?
I may go. I may finally go. I haven't been in 5 years.
You're going to show up, and they're going to lose. They're going to be unbeaten. It's going to be Patriots-Giants Super Bowl 42.
No one's beaten
You're
us yet.
showing up, and they're going down.
My Golden Eagles,
the
right up there.
perfect season ruined.
The controversy game of the night, Berlin with a 70-57 win over Somersworth. 4 Somersworth players fouled out, 87 foul shots in the game. Justin McIsaac pulled what little bit of the top of his head. He still has hair all out last night, and Krejci was screaming on Twitter all night about this. 70-57 Berlin over Somersworth.
87 free throws in a game.
Oh, my God. I mean, you want to talk about Wyndham got a nice win over Plymouth. This was a game I wanted to see. 53-51. Wyndham really needed that
Finally
win.
wins a game.
Yeah, they needed that one. Conant 68-27 over Bow. They bounced back pretty quickly. And last score would be Sunapee with a real nice win, 74-64 over Pittsfield. And that's a young Sunapee team that's going to be pretty good in Division IV in the next few years.
I just got to say that I know I just said that Wyndham finally got a win. I know they have another win besides.
No, but they needed that
but
win.
But they haven't won in a well. Maybe they have one. They've lost a lot of games, is what I'm trying to say. I got a score for you. I don't think you mentioned Spalding beat Nashua North 62-41.
Oh, I didn't. It wasn't on there.
I got this off of Fosters.com. Parity 22 points. Nick McGregor with 14. Rivalry game next weekend. Spalding hosting Exeter. Here's another score that I want to mention, and I'll give you my specific reason why. Hinsdale 65, Newt 45. For years and years and years, I've been reading Newt. Where the hell's Newt? Milton. Where the hell's Milton?
Milton's right next to Farmington.
I think we've actually gotten a phone call from Milton when I've been doing a show on this radio station. I assume that's 96.7 The Wave Country.
Dave Burrows, the all-time leading scorer in the state. 4-year starter.
He was at Newt.
He was at
Well, that's
Newt.
probably why I've heard of Newt before, but I just never knew where it was. Is it a regional school, or is it a school just for Milton?
Well, let's not go too deep into this. I don't know.
Well, hey.
Oh, I want to mention one more thing. Newmarket. I mentioned it in the first hour, but Newmarket crushed my boy Lewis Atkins and Portsmouth Christian last night. But 31 points for Christian Hawkins, as we talked about in the first hour. He had 38 points the night before against Wilton, so 69 points in 2 nights for Christian Hawkins, who's just a fantastic. There's 3 fantastic point guards in Division IV. Chad Knighton from Lisbon, Nick Whipple from Littleton, and, of course, Christian Hawkins. And as I mentioned, I'm going to go see Littleton against Lisbon in a few weeks. So
it says in the little blurb on Fosters.com about Christian Hawkins in that game, it says one night after he scored 38. So did they play back-to-back nights?
Yeah, because it got moved back because of the storm.
Oh, okay. And Icefeller, who I called Icefelder a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he's good, man. Josh is very, very good.
16 points for him.
6'5". It's funny. They list him at 6'5", and Derryfield lists Roger Larrabee at 6'9", and they stood next to each other. There might be an inch difference.
And Larrabee had a good game for Derryfield
He did.
last
He had 19.
night.
He played very well. Yeah, that's a very good win. I mean, Frank Stanley and Jimmy Stanley, that's a good Epping team they beat. So Epping is good, but they've played Newmarket and lost, and they played Derryfield twice and lost. They're 6-3, but they've played the elite, and they're 0-3 against the teams above them.
All right, Cole Brown somehow 6-1. Is that a product of the schedule?
Yeah.
I mean, they've played an easy schedule. They played Kennett last night.
I mean,
they
they're
won
good,
by
but they're
19.
not. This is the same team that lost. They lost to Portsmouth by 40, and they lost in a Christmas tournament to Conant by 35. Dave Smith does a great job, but they haven't gotten to the meat of their schedule yet.
And it's weird
they're
how
winning the games they should win. Give them credit for that. I'm not trying to take anything away from them.
When you look at it,
Angry
last
calls
year
from Northwood.
They made it to the Final Four, and they upset Pembroke in the quarterfinals at Pembroke, and they were playing well down the stretch. This year, it's kind of reversed. They're playing very, very well at the beginning of the season, hopefully they can keep it
Darren
going.
Doyon was the kid last year
Yeah.
they had who was like the toughest kid on the floor.
Didn't he get into it with Alosa like after the game in the handshake line or something?
No, that was their point guard who did. Who threw an elbow at Kamal Walker's head that if it had connected Kamal Walker's head, he would have been walking around like Ichabod Crane. I'm telling you, he threw this.
So
elbow right at his head.
he got after
Darling.
Alosa and Kamal Walker.
Yeah.
Wow.
In different games.
Wow.
A little bit of a listen. Some of these kids are, a little bit of a hothead.
Well, we got Jim Mulvey coming up. 8:35 this morning. He's going to join us. We'll talk at length about that Portsmouth Hollis Brookline game
And about how me and John Kessie almost got mugged at Portsmouth.
Well, what is the deal with that?
So here's the story. So after the game, and I know a ton of people in Portsmouth. I think I'm well connected. I know that I'm shaking hands, kissing babies. I'm having a good time. Apparently not. So after the game, John and I do the interviews. We interviewed Jim Mulvey, and then we had Travis McDonald and Ben Landry, as you can see on the video. So John and I are talking after, and John is so calm in his demeanor. So, quiet kind of guy, and he goes, Dave, I need to interrupt. You have to go. Some guy's walking out with John's case where all of his equipment is. Guy's literally just walking out the gym on the far side. So John walks quickly, to go get the guy, and he's saying, excuse me, sir. Guy won't stop. So I started following John. Thought we might have a little incident here. I was going to have to rain blows on this guy to get the case back. So John finally taps him on the shoulder. The guy goes, oh, we're trying to close up here. Mind you, the game has been over for 10 minutes. There's kids all over the floor playing, shooting around. Jim Mulvey's talking to his wife and his son John. I'm like, settle down. I don't know if they had a hot date or something like that. So that happens. I turn around. I put my cell phone right on the Portsmouth bench. And again, we're interviewing the kids 10 feet away. No cell phone. And as I said during the break, when you lose your cell phone, sadly, it's like all of your friends and family, your child have disappeared and moved to
I'm nothing without my mobile phone.
That Hurley, that island that Jack and Hurley were on and lost. Everything's gone. So I'm like, where's my phone? So I'm looking around everywhere. And I said to John, do you have my phone? No. And I'm like, what is going on here? It's like Thunderdome. There's no rules. So I'm walking around, and a guy says, he said, are you looking for your phone? I said, yeah. He goes, well, you can't leave it sitting out. You got leave it sitting out. I'm interviewing people 10 feet away from you. What? What are you talking about? So John and I just looked at each other we need to hold hands and get out of here before we get mugged. This is Portsmouth. I thought I owned that place.
Did you get any video footage of you guys holding hands? That's what I want to see.
It got close. I don't think we
Yikes.
literally held hands, but we were a little scared. We walked out together and made sure that some
So is this
rogue
like a
8th
janitor?
grader didn't try to take my phone.
Was it like a janitor or something?
They
or
were
is this just like
whoever they were very serious about cleaning up quickly.
Well, if they are a custodian at a school, they've probably been there since 6 o'clock in the morning. They all day. They got a game. They hate those game nights because they got to stay extra long.
Did that story I just told make you say while you were listening, I really want to defend whoever did this?
No, I'm just saying that, you got to kind of put yourself in their
Seriously?
shoes.
Listen to the
Walk
custodian.
a mile in a man's shoes, okay?
Oh, for crying out loud.
And
You're just mad because your strudel fell on the ground.
you know what? And what I've found that eating this toaster strudel that my wife put with Go Pats on the icing part of it that I dropped face down on the steps outside
And
the
then
radio
ate.
station, and then I ate. It was a little bit extra crunchy.
When people see you in the gym next week with a hacking cough, I don't think they have to wonder what happened.
Quick timeout. We'll come back more in the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show, Saturday mornings, live on the radio, WGIR AM 610 around Manchester. Also, the Seacoast signal for you, 96.7 The Wave, Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, NHSportsPage.com. Listening to us, I'm sure, throughout the program on 96.7 The Wave is our next guest, Jim Mulvey, head coach of the Portsmouth Clippers. Coach Mulvey, you have been tuned in and listening very, very intently, haven't you, since 7 o'clock?
Yeah, I have been. Definitely. How you guys doing?
We're doing okay. Good win for you last night, 58-47 against the Hollis Brookline team. I was at the Nashua Chick-fil-A tournament a few weeks ago and saw you there scouting the Hollis team. And one thing that you think of when you're talking about Hollis is that outstanding backcourt, P.J. Flom and Connor Walsh. Those guys can certainly play, and you guys were up to the challenge last night in the game against them.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're well coached. the two guards, they had 31 out of 47, but I thought we contained them pretty good. PJ got open a few times. We lost him a couple times in out of bounds plays, but in all, our guards, Donovan and little Zach Hansler, who's been fat in the last couple of games for us, did, I thought, a great job against both of them.
It's funny watching all these teams over the years that you've coached, and this edition, which has, as a lot of people probably know, has 5 new starters, and after the championship team last year, from watching these guys, they're listening to you, they're running your offense, but the kind of read and react, I've seen your son John or Kamal or Billy in the past, cut back door when they get overplayed trying to go out to the perimeter. These guys sort of know they go out to the perimeter, but they haven't quite learned how to. Would you agree with that? They're sort of aren't improvising yet. They're just not there yet as a new team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's the word, improvise, and we talk about it at practice all the time with the coaches. When somebody changes something, or as long as we practice what we're going to see, everything seems to be fine with our team. But when there's something new, or someone makes a new adjustment, they don't react. You're absolutely right. So hopefully teams won't change up on us too much and let us dictate the play. But you're right. But that's coming. I saw a few things last night. That was by far our best. We had, I think, 9 turnovers. We've been averaging 17, which is outrageous, and so we're definitely coming,
Jim Mulvey, head coach of the Portsmouth Clippers, is our guest. Team improves to 5-2. I saw Dave kind of joke about it with you last night when I was watching the video highlight package on nhsportspage.com, and we've been joking about it all year long, really, when at the beginning of the year you tell him, hey, we're a 5-win team this year. Well, you got the 5 wins, so are you guys just packing it in the rest of the season, or are you going to maybe try and change your prediction? Because you do reserve the right to change your mind.
Well, I told Dave I'm not wrong yet. I
have a feeling you will be on Wednesday.
I'm a little bit of a worrier, I guess, but I don't know. We're exceeding where I thought we were going to be for sure, and I think now we're going to be in the mix the rest of the way. I think you got Pembroke, Lebanon, and Souhegan still. Souhegan is just so talented. I mean, they got to get it together. They get players at every position, and when you get one of the best point guards, it's such a guard-oriented league that they got to be the 3 teams that you worry about. But hopefully, we'll be somewhere between 4 and 8.
I was talking to the kids last night after the game in that interview about at the beginning of the season, early, before anyone really knows how it's going to break out. The goal had to be, let's get a home playoff game. Really, that top 4 seeds right there. In fact, I think you'll probably be there, and that it's real important to get those 2 home playoff games, obviously. But my question to you is, somebody asked me last night in the crowd, they said, do you think it's harder to shoot at UNH when these kids, and Portsmouth's been there 7 straight years, I think it is, and they said, is it harder to shoot? And you and I have had this conversation. You kind of, I want you to sort of elaborate it, but do you believe it's tougher for kids on that bigger floor and the bigger stage to shoot at UNH when they get to the Final Four?
Yeah, UNH is not a great shooting gym. It really isn't. The floor, and then there's the one end that's enclosed. You shoot a little better down there. Over the years, I've seen it, and then as the people walk in that end, I bet if you looked at the field goal percentage, it would drop pretty drastically for us. And I bet you if you looked at UNH's shooting, it would too. It's just not a good background. I would lock us in for the top 4 seed yet. I mean, we got a long way to go for that. I mean, we lost to a Brady team that is pretty good, that doesn't have the schedule we have, so they're going to have very few losses. We knew when I saw that on the schedule, I was thinking, you got to win that game for seeding purposes, because then there's not a lot of teams that are going to beat them, I don't think. But I don't know how they did last night. Maybe you guys do.
They beat Goffstown.
Yeah, I would have figured that.
By 3.
Yeah. So
I feel like I just ruined your morning a little bit, but you have the you got the tiebreaker over Hollis Brookline after that one. But no, I agree with you too. I think we were talking about it. Did you say this on the air or off? I can't remember, Pete. But Cole Brown's 5-1, and I think a lot of
6-1. I think
6-1,
Yeah,
and
6-1.
Plymouth's now 5-2. A lot of these teams, nothing against them, but this is kind of when people start to kind of move back and move forward and so forth and so on. But I'm surprised by a kid like Travis McDonald, and I said this to him when you signed the kids up for the Players Lounge. I said to him, you couldn't get off the bench last year, and now he's scoring 17 points a game. He's a terrific shooter, and he's done a really nice job of using those screens and coming off and just squaring up, and he's a terrific shooter when he does square his body and shoot. But, to have, a kid like that who can step up as a senior after not playing any minutes on a championship team, I mean, that's great to have.
Yeah, it really is. And, when you win a lot, and even though the kids aren't playing, they're playing against kids that are better than them every day at practice. They're getting better. And the winning is just, they expect it. I mean, even in the beginning of the year when I didn't think we were going to be too good, I could see that they thought they were going to win games just because they've been in a program that wins a lot. I think that really is powerful. And Travis can shoot the ball. We run a lot of stuff for him, and the kids are unselfish looking for him. And last night, the best he did, though, was defensive rebound, and he got a bunch of rebounds in that third and fourth quarter, which was what we really need from him.
Coach Jim Mulvey from Portsmouth is our guest on the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. Coach, tell us about the legend of Devon Wilson Miles, another one that doesn't play last year on that great team, and now he's playing with you guys and had this tremendous dunk earlier in the season where he posterized the opposing player. I saw the highlights of him, some number 30 kid, just tearing it up on the low block last night in the second half for you. Turns out it was Devon Wilson Miles. He's definitely a player that has kind of come onto your system and really shown that you guys have some talent.
Yeah, he does have talent. He's got a lot of offensive skill. We've had Tom Dowd, who played with us in 2007 back from Plymouth State. He works with our big guys and done a great job with him in particular. And Devon's only a sophomore, and he's young, and he's young in the basketball sense. He hasn't had a lot of training. I worked with Noah LaRoche at Integrity a little bit this year. And, the sky's the limit for him. He's just got to get it. And sometimes it's between his ears more than it is anywhere else. But he was great for us last night.
All right, Coach. Well, we're running out of time, but I know that the business that you do besides coaching basketball, Seacoast Tickets, there's a pretty big game in Foxborough tomorrow night. Do you guys got any tickets left over for the game if anybody's looking to maybe go down to Foxborough and hopefully celebrate an AFC championship?
That's nice of you. No, we're out at this point, but it is a big game for us because then if they can get to the Super Bowl, then we'll be in that business for a couple of weeks. So that'll be good stuff.
What's the demand like? I mean, is it crazy this time of year especially when you kind of get a surprise home game? When Denver went down against Baltimore last week, you had to be smiling, saying, "Hey, you know what? Now we're probably going to get some tickets for this championship game. We can make a little money." Yeah,
I mean, we were laughing about it like 2 weeks ago. It looked like they weren't even going to get one play game, and everything fell in their favor. Houston losing on the last week of the year, and this has been it's been good for business. But this is basketball season for me, though. I care less, to be honest with you. I'm concentrated on basketball.
All right, well, I'm not even going to ask you for a prediction. I mean, Jack Quirk from Memorial gave us a prediction. Well, he didn't actually give us a prediction.
I don't know if he did.
But he did talk about it at length.
I'll give you one. I think it's Patriots 27-24.
There you go. And you can get your Super Bowl packages, Seacoast Tickets. Check it out. Ask for Jim. Coach Mulvey, thanks so much, and good luck at that game at Goffstown on Tuesday. It should be interesting.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Jim Mulvey, great guy. He almost lost me there when he told me he doesn't care. He's all focused, tunnel vision.
So focused. When he's at UNH, his shirt will be untucked.
Yes.
And he's got his notes. He cracks me up because he's so tunnel vision. He's terrific. I have to say, and obviously Jim has just been tremendous to me over the years, and so I just like him a lot as a person. But I gotta say, one game to win. Give me an all-star team, and we're playing for the future of New Hampshire or something against Vermont. I think he's the coach I'd take. I mean, he steals 6 to 8 points a game off out-of-bounds plays, press breakers, and so forth. He gets free baskets. When they played Milford a few years ago, they had no business. Nothing against Dan Murray of Milford, but they had no business being in that game. They just didn't have enough talent to stick with him. But Jim stole probably like 4 baskets off of just kids cutting back door or out of bounds plays, and then when you steal 8 points, boom, you're in it at the end. I think he's as good as there is in the state.
Have you seen Pembroke yet in person this year?
Not this year.
Okay. But you know enough about the program.
I've seen him a bunch. Yeah.
All right.
The same kids.
I
saw him over the summer once. Yeah.
Is this Portsmouth team a team that could beat Pembroke? I know Pembroke went into Portsmouth earlier this year and won by almost 20.
They could beat them.
They could?
Yeah. I mean, they absolutely. At the end, absolutely, because they've got the athletes who can guard them. And, Pembroke a lot of times will kind of sit in that zone, and you can kind of get a rhythm against the zone sometimes. Portsmouth always does a good job of bringing that kid. They used to do it with Greg Segranis last year, where they flash the guy to the foul line and kind of direct traffic. They've got a kid in Pat Glynn and Colin McDonald who can do that now. You know what I mean? They know how to attack it. And Pembroke's a great team, but they've had a few 4 or 5 point wins here. I mean, they're not blasting through people by 30.
Well, I liken Pembroke and their
Pembroke's
situation
favorite,
in D2 to Manchester Memorial. Both of those are tremendously talented teams, great starting fives, but they only go 6 deep, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Pembroke's got one kid off the bench, Cameron Taylor. Other than that, they really don't use their bench.
And every year, Matt Alosa tells me, and I'm sure he means it, but he says, we're deeper this year. But then you look at
think about it, though.
Good.
Well, yeah, I don't know how he could say that this year.
He did.
But especially with Rhodes, who transferred and is starting and playing well for Trinity.
And Andrew Hood.
Yeah, Hood out at Newport.
Second leading scorer in Division III.
Yeah.
I mean, how about
those
that
guys?
Team with
those
two?
guys couldn't even play on Pembroke.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the Rhodes case. All right, he was barely getting minutes at Pembroke last year.
Well, he
transfers to
he's
Trinity.
A guard. At least Hood's a big guy. I mean, Rhodes is Andrew Hood didn't get out of there because of playing time. His father lives in Newport. That's why he left. His father, Scott.
Right.
But, yeah, Rhodes is behind Rennie Mahar and Patrick Wells.
Rainey Marr.
Randy.
Rainey Marr.
How long has he been on the site that I can't say
his
his
name?
His
7th year
Patrick
senior.
Walsh. I know how to say that.
Just on Pembroke, Dominic Timbus, big man, sophomore, very, very good player. He's contributing offensively now as well. I mean, they didn't even have Welch in the game last night, and I think they put up like over 85. They have 87 last night. I know they played Kingswood, but when you don't have your 30-point-a-game guy, they scored 78. All right.
Oh, no. They're more
with
than
24.
capable. Take any guy out.
Jordan Williams, 22 points, 15 rebounds. I wasn't sure he was capable of scoring 22 points. Maybe it's Kingswood. I mean, he's a very athletic player and very much improved, but he doesn't have a polished offensive game.
I'm sure a lot of rebounds.
Yeah,
offensive
it
rebounds.
probably was a lot of offensive
He's
rebounds.
improved greatly. He's played very well. Yeah, they can win without any of those guys on a given night. They're that good. And Matt Alosa is a tremendous game coach.
All right, let's take a timeout. Come back. We'll go around the state. Don't worry. I know we're going to get into our take on the AFC Championship game. Maybe a little Manti Te'o stuff. Just try and figure out
little Guilford
what
Belmont.
a Golden Domer has to say about this crazy story in Manti Te'o's life.
He's pushing my
or
buttons.
his imaginary
Pushing
life.
my buttons.
Quick timeout. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show. WGIR AM 610 and 96.7 The Wave. What do you get when you combine a great song, classic tune by the band Winger, She's Only 17. I think they should play this more at high school stuff. Or like there's a star girls basketball player who's only 17. She's lighting it up.
Family show.
No. I'm not going there.
We got to save him.
I'm not going there. No, I mean, she's draining threes left and right.
Yeah, all right.
She's only 17,
Have you
folks.
listened to the lyrics?
Well, you know what?
Can I tell you?
Did you just listen to yourself?
Yeah, no. We'll edit this out later. Funny story. Do you remember? You remember the movie The Karate Kid? The first Karate Kid, of course, Ralph
I
Macchio.
watch it all the time. My
remember
boys
that
love
song?
it.
Remember that song? You're the best.
Yeah.
Oh, right, that song.
During the karate tournament?
Yeah. 5 years ago at UNH, Kevin Gray, the union leader's own, and I tried so hard. We even gave it to try to get the girl to play that in warm-ups during the Division I semifinals. And she goes, "It's so cheesy." I'm like, "Come on."
Oh, man. That's pump-up music.
Oh, me and Kevin would have been we would have been falling all over each other laughing if we could get that. We tried. So yeah, we tried to get in there.
You know what? You know what's going to happen? We're going to get some of that in bumper music. Adam Furious, our hardworking producer, is going to find that.
I put
and
requests
coming
in
out of
to
a
him all the
commercial
time.
break, you're the best. That's coming down.
That's hard to find.
That is coming down. Hey, I want to talk about a game that happened Monday night of last week. Of course, Kiss of Death. Come on our program. Guaranteed a loss in your next game out.
We'll never hear from Eric Saucier.
Eric Saucier on the show, the Conant coach last week. We're waxing poetic about the great program at Conant and great atmosphere and how they've been pretty much unbeatable is what I was going to say. Unbeatable in Division III over the last few years. And what happens, Conant, who is a good team, a top-notch program in D3, even though they got a new coach this year, you had Pat Roy stepping down. Now, where's he? Hopkinton?
Yeah, he's an
as
assistant coach at Hopkinton. He's out. He's doing a lot of scouting. And now he and Dave Chase the Hopkinton coach went to the BC North Carolina State game with us a couple weeks ago.
Oh, very nice. Well, Campbell's a good program, but they hadn't been able to beat Conant, whether it was in Litchfield, on the road, in a tournament, whatever. And they get a three-pointer to basically win the game in the final 30 seconds, and Conant goes down. Was that a shocker to you that they lost, despite the fact that we know Campbell's really good?
It would have been more shocking if Jake Carlson wasn't out. He's the second or third best player on Conant's team, and he broke his elbow. I think I forgot to mention it last week on the radio because I did know about it. And
Didn't you get a text from Eric after the interview and said, hey, by the way, Jake Carlson's hurt?
Well, he had told me already he was hurt. I think we spoke on the phone before the interview, and it was not confirmed. So they were without their third best player, but they were in control of that game, but they were in foul trouble the whole game, Conant was. And so that means some kids have to sit. They're not as aggressive defensively. And I heard Campbell just didn't miss in the fourth quarter. Max Gavia is tremendous little point guard for Campbell, and he played very, very well. And, it's if it had been the full Conant squad, it would have been more shocking. But the good win, and Campbell turns around and loses to Prospect Mountain, who's playing very well. Prospect Mountain's kind of lying in the weeds. They're quietly out there in the Barnstead, Alton area, kind of just winning, kind of getting it together with that huge front line. They got front line 6'6", 6'6", 6'5", and they got a 6'6" kid off the bench.
How new is that school? Because I actually drove by it, I think it was on Monday. A beautiful day. I remember it was almost like 50-something degrees, 60-something degrees. I had meetings up in the Lakes region, and I drove by Prospect Mountain. I don't remember that school being around for more than 10 years.
It used to be Alton, and then the Barnstead kids used to go to Pittsfield. Pittsfield used to be in Division III, and that's why they moved down. How old is it? I don't know. 12 years, 14 years.
Looking at the standings in D3, I just noticed something. Lucas Croto's got his team 2 games over 500, 6-4.
He does. They scored 27 points last night against Conant, but he's running and gunning with those guys. Hopkinton's going to move up those standings. They're a team to watch, and it's funny to see Guilford and Newport at the top. I joke about Guilford. I don't know, joke. I think I'm quite serious actually. But Guilford is 8-0. They haven't played a very tough schedule, and so they've got some tough games coming up. They got to play Somersworth. They're going to have to play Berlin on the 22nd. They're going to have to play Prospect Mountain. Then we'll figure out where Guilford is in the hierarchy. But the Lakes Region teams aren't very good, and Guilford's taking advantage of that. And Newport has been tremendous this year with Andrew Hood, who's one of the best players, probably one of the top 3 players in Division III.
87 free throws in the game. It's Berlin and Somersworth last night.
Get Crutchy on the
Berlin
phone.
wins that game. Berlin's now 8-1. This isn't the same Curtis Arsenal type of Berlin team, but they're 8-1.
Yeah, they're 8-1, and they had the story with these guys is they had an undefeated JV team last year that crushed people. And I remember talking to a bunch of coaches for the previews before I talked to Don Picard, their coach, and they've got a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the division. But I remember Lauren Lucas saying, he's like, yeah, they're going to be fine. Their JV team crushed our JV team. So they have Levi Arsenal, Curtis's little brother, who's a sophomore. And they've got a young, quick team. I think they're pressing more than they have before. And Brad Finette's a very good player. Dimitri, I think it's Giannos, yeah, who's one of the leading scorers in Division III. So, yeah, that's a tough bus ride, and they're just those kids are tough, those Berlin kids.
I got to go to Division I for a second because a team that we don't seem to ever talk about, I haven't seen them yet, and bad job out of me.
A Division I team we don't talk about?
Bishop Girton. And surprisingly, you say those two words, and we don't talk about them. Usually don't go in the same sentence, but
we did have to play
BG's
Memorial.
7-1. You know, they're a good basketball team, but I haven't seen them play this year. I know Jeff Lund is a tremendous player. He's double-double machine, and he's got to be in the conversation for Player of the Year early in the season anyway. They play at Winnicott on Tuesday night, and then they have next Friday off, and then it's a big one, Trinity at BG, a week from Tuesday. That's the 29th of January.
4 very tough games in a row. They've got at Winnicott, Trinity, as you mentioned, Merrimack at home, and then at Nashua South. And then at the end of the season, they have to go at Spalding. I think BG. Yeah, absolutely. I think BG's legitimate. They're a legitimate contender. Ask me in 2 weeks. I want to see what they do in the next few weeks. I think they're there, but if they're top 4 or not, I don't know. I'm not ready to say that yet.
Really? You don't think you're not quite sure. You're not sold yet that they're top 4.
I'm waiting for Mr. Remillard to call in. I'm just expecting the phone to ring at any moment. No, I don't think they're there yet. But I mean, I think Central and Trinity, for example, has proven themselves. They beat Nashua South and they beat Spalding. So there you go. There's 2 resume wins right there. And South has also played a pretty. Spalding I think is legitimately there. So if you want to say BG top 4, okay, Central, Trinity, Memorial, South, Spalding.
Yeah.
Are they better than those teams?
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
I think we're gonna find out though. So
exactly.
I think that's good to wait on it a little bit and see how this thing plays out.
That's why it's fun.
All right, we'll take a time out. We are gonna finish our high school hoops portion of the program. So I promise you the rest of the way, we want to get Dave Haley's take, and I'll give my take on the Patriots and the Ravens tomorrow. And then I got to find out your take on this Manti Te'o situation. It is the New Hampshire High School Hoop Show with a little bit of a roadblock or a little bit of a change of direction, a detour, so to speak, when we return. WGIR AM 610 and 96.7.
Try to be best, 'cause you're only a man, and a man's got to learn to take it. Try to believe.
We got to let this one roll
How great would that been in warm-ups? I'll tell you, Kevin Gray and I would have been falling all over each other laughing. Do high school kids even know that? They have to, right? They watch Karate Kid, right? Is it that dated?
Of course they did.
Oh, they definitely. Well, they watched the Jaden Smith version.
Terrible. He's in China. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, that doesn't count for nothing.
It is the best New Hampshire high school hoops talk you can find on the radio.
I hope that song's in your head all day, people.
It's definitely in my head throughout the course. Want to get into the AFC Championship game, take Pats Ravens tomorrow night with myself and Dave Haley. But I got to mention a tweet that just came out across that mentioned our show. Kind of. Our former co-host Mark Thaler, love him, retired from the Union Leader, got a real job now. He tweets out, happy to hear hashtag NHIAA hockey talk, but it's on at WGAM the game with at Telegraph Tom K, and it says in parentheses, too bad at Pete Terrier and at NH Sports page aren't matching on WGIR. And we talked about this, that a lot of people, when the show switched from football to hoops, a lot of people, hockey people, were going to be disappointed because we weren't talking hockey this year. And strictly because Mark Thaler's no longer on the show, and he was the hockey guy. All right, and I did as best as I could with the hockey, and I really enjoy hockey, and I liked following high school hockey, but I just don't have the time in my life, unfortunately, to be a so-called expert on New Hampshire high school hoops. Now I got to learn Division III and Division IV hoops in addition to what I already know about Division I and Division II, but I just don't have time to do the hockey, so I figured if we're going to do something, and I got Dave, who was an expert on all things New Hampshire high school boys hoops, we figured we would focus on what we can do and do very well. So I'm sorry to upset the hockey fans and, of course, my former co-host Mark Thaler.
The hockey fans aren't listening.
Well, they probably were, and they probably got mad, and they're probably glad that they found a place where they will talk about some hockey.
Well, that's wonderful. Let's talk about Manti Te'o's girlfriend now.
All right. What the hell's going on?
I think he got caught up. I think he's a deeply religious. He's a Mormon, very naive. Tony Kornheiser on PTI described him as very childlike and very naive, and he got played, and then he kind of rolled with it after it reminds me a little bit of, there was a story, this came out, this was on ESPN years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a kid who was a lineman someplace in Ohio or something, and he started telling his teammates that Oregon and Washington, I don't know if those are the exact schools, but it's 2 major programs like that, were recruiting him for football. Well, one kid told his mom, who mentioned it to another mom, who mentioned it to a coach. And all of a sudden, the whole school was like, oh, he's getting recruited by Oregon and Washington. It got to the point where on signing day, do you remember this?
No.
The whole gym was packed in his high school. He sat there with the 2 hats.
Oh, my God.
All right? He picked the hat. Everyone hugged him, did the whole sell. I think he picked Oregon. Congratulations.
Chip Kelly was like, I don't know this kid.
They then turned around, and a local reporter called Oregon, and the football officer says, we have no clue who this I don't know what you're talking about. And the kid had to come clean. He made the whole thing up.
Oh, my
No one
goodness.
had ever recruited him. But the point is, I think the lie, and I don't think Manti, I think he got duped, but I think this spiraled out of control after he found out he got duped, because apparently he got a phone call after she had his fake girlfriend died. This is the most ridiculous thing.
I know.
I don't know what to say about
Are
that.
you embarrassed as a Notre Dame guy that this is happening?
I'm not personally embarrassed. I mean, in 7th grade, I had trouble getting a date, but I didn't make up the Niagara Falls girlfriend. So, I mean, it's not me.
Remember the Brady bunch where
George Glass.
George Glass.
I never did that.
George.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
It's George Glass.
He's the whole thing is
it's
quite
bizarre.
We'll find out more as it keeps rolling out.
All right. You've had enough issues with Notre Dame over this last month. You just want to get this thing over with.
Let's move on.
Let's talk about Pats Ravens. We got about a minute or so. Your thoughts. Are the Pats going to the Super Bowl? Simple as that.
I agree with, really, I got to jump on Jim Mulvey, who said, that's what I think, a 27-24. 27.
Why are they favored by 9 points in Vegas?
I think it's down to 8.
Well, whatever.
But
it's
yeah.
still over a touchdown. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, no.
I hope they're right. Don't get me wrong.
I do. Those Vegas guys kind of know something, but I think we're looking at a 49ers-Patriots Super Bowl. I think it will come down to the 4th quarter, but I like the Patriots to make more plays. I think if Gronkowski was healthy, I think the Pats would win by 2 scores.
All right, how about you, Furious? What are your thoughts?
What, on the Ravens game this coming weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's going to be ugly. I'm going to say like 34-30.
Pats?
Yeah.
You think they'll score that many points?
I really think so. I think it's going to be a shootout, man. I'm sorry.
I think the Patriots are going to win. I'm right around that, field goal, type of game. It's going to go down to the wire. We're going to be biting our fingernails. You want to bite your fingernails with me? I'm going to be out back at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Rochester on Sunday afternoon. So I want you guys, I had some people from Spalding High School come up to me last week. I was hosting the Pats-Texans party. Great place to watch the game. Come on out and see me. Lots of prizes and giveaways. It's going to be a lot of fun. And hopefully a Patriots Super Bowl appearance. And oh, by the way, our morning show guy on WGIR and 96.7 The Wave, his last day was yesterday. I'm hosting the show with former Souhegan football coach Mike Bellevue.
Oh, very good.
3 hours on Monday morning. So Monday morning after the Super Bowl celebration, you can listen to me and Coach B 6 to 9, both of these stations.